The rain that night didn't fall. It attacked. It hammered against the windows of Benny's grill, turning the parking lot into a shallow river. Malik Carter, 17 years old, stood by the pickup counter, his stomach a hollow knot. For 3 days, he'd saved. No bus, no snacks, just peanut butter and determination. The plate before him, a burger and fries, wasn't just food. It was victory. It was choice. Then he saw them. In the corner booth, a well-dressed elderly couple, soaked and shivering, staring into him coffee cups. The woman was digging through a purse that yielded nothing but desperation. Malik looked at his meal. He looked at the storm, and in that heartbeat, his life split into a before and an after. Malik's body didn't need an alarm. It woke itself at 5:15 a.m., a creature of pure routine. The floorboards in the small house on Sycamore Lane sang their familiar chorus of creaks as he slid from the twin bed he'd had since childhood. He paused outside his grandmother's door, listening to the faint, wheezing rhythm of her sleep. Ms. Elaine was 68, but her body carried the weight of 80, diabetes, bad joints, a heart that tired too easily. She pretended to sleep through his leaving. He pretended not to know. Their home told its story quietly. Paint peeled like old skin. The front porch step dipped in the middle, a permanent sigh. But inside, it was spotless. "Dignity don't cost a thing," Ms. Elaine would say, her voice a dry whisper. Malik pulled on his jeans, the same pair from yesterday, from the day before. His fingers found the bus fare in the pocket, $3. Enough for the ride to work. The 3-mile walk home in the dark was just part of the day's tax. The walk to Benny's was a journey through worlds, past faded bungalows with trimmed hedges, past the low-rise apartments where his friend Dion lived, where the sound of sirens was just background music. Past the old factory, its windows boarded up, a monument to endings. Benny's grill sat at the corner, a beacon of greasy light in the pre-dawn gloom. Benny was already there, a mountain of a man cracking eggs with one hand. He gave Malik a single nod. No smile needed. Respect was their currency. In the kitchen, Malik's world narrowed to steam, soap, and the clatter of plates. His hands, once smooth, were now mapped with calluses and small burns. He'd look at them sometimes, imagining different hands. Hands that held philosophy books or typed on keyboards. College hands. The small window above the sink faced the lot. Between stacks of dishes, Malik watched lives parade past. Construction crews with thermoses, office workers already on their phones, families with sleepy children, lives that felt like television shows. Something observed, not lived. His shift ended at 7:30. Then came the second shift, school. Jefferson High was a fortress of faded brick and tired hope. Computers from another century, textbooks held together with tape. But inside those walls, Malik transformed. Here, he wasn't the dishwasher. He was Malik Carter, AP student. Mr. Reynolds, his history teacher, cornered him one afternoon. "You have a mind that connects dots others don't even see," he said, his voice low and serious. "What about college, Malik?" The word felt like a stone in his throat. "Can't afford it, Mr. Reynolds." "Maybe not today," the teacher said, sliding a pamphlet across the desk. A campus quad, all green grass and sunlight. But worthiness has a way of attracting resources. At lunch, while the cafeteria sold pizza, Malik ate his sandwich and studied scholarship forms. The numbers were a language of impossibility. Even with aid, it meant debt Miss Elaine could never shoulder. After school, he returned to Benny's, to the evening shift. The night crowd was different, a tapestry of small celebrations and quiet loneliness. Malik noticed everything. The regular, who always left an extra $1 when the waitress looked stressed. The elderly man who made a single cup of coffee last 2 hours just to be around people. Malik saw the economy of kindness, how it flowed in whispers and spare change. At home, Miss Elaine waited in her recliner, the soft hum of her oxygen concentrator, the soundtrack of their evenings. "How was your day, baby?" "Good, Grandma. Yours?" "Better now you're here." They never talked about the prescription she skipped. They never talked about the college brochures in his backpack. Some silences were necessary bridges over the gap between their reality and their dreams. But this night, the rain-heavy night, was different. Malik just didn't know it yet. What he also didn't know was that for the past 72 hours, questions had been circulating in certain circles about the young man who organized the school's food drive, who fixed Ms. Pearl's fence without being asked, who quietly covered the difference when a classmate's lunch money was short. His character had been under a microscope, and he was about to walk into its final decisive exam. The elderly couple at table 6 looked utterly misplaced. The woman's silver hair was plastered to her scalp, her expensive wool coat darkened by rainwater. The man sat stiffly, his tailored suit clinging to him, ruined. They had ordered only coffee. For over an hour, they had nursed those same 2 cups. Malik watched from the counter as the woman's search of her purse grew frantic. A compact reading glasses, a tube of lipstick, no wallet. She whispered to her husband. He patted his jacket, his pants, his jacket again. The slow shake of his head was a sentence. "I don't understand," the woman said, her voice carrying a tremor of genuine shame. "I had it at the hotel." Dasha, the waitress, approached with the check, her face pinched with sympathy. "Folks, I'm sorry, but I gotta close this out. We seem to have misplaced our means of payment," the man said, his voice deep, cultured, etched with embarrassment. "Perhaps we could leave something of value." "Benny, don't work like that," Tasha said gently. "I'm real sorry." Benny himself emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a towel. He wasn't unkind, but his eyes were the eyes of a man who'd been burned by sob stories before. "Look," he said, his voice low, "the meal's on me, the coffee, but I can't set a precedent. You understand?" "Of course," the man said, standing abruptly, dignity his last remaining possession. "Come, Victoria." The woman, Victoria, stood, clutching a slim, weathered leather briefcase to her chest. As she moved, it shifted, and Malik caught a glimpse inside. Not papers, blueprints, and a logo embossed in gold that sparked a faint, unplaceable recognition. They moved toward the door, toward the punishing rain. "They can't go back out there," Tasha murmured to Malik. "Not like that." But Benny had already turned away. The matter closed. Malik looked at his tray. The burger steamed. The fries were golden. The reward for 3 days of discipline. He watched the man's hand reach for the door handle, saw the woman's shoulders slump as she faced the wall of water. He didn't think. He just moved. "Tasha," he said, his voice firmer than he felt. He carried the tray across the diner. "Hold up, folks." They turned. The man's eyes were a pale, piercing gray, and they fixed on Malik with an intensity that felt like a physical touch. "This one's on me," Malik said, setting the plate down. "Young man, we couldn't possibly—" Victoria began, her eyes glistening. "Please," Malik said, sliding into the booth. "My grandma says a kindness given is the only seed that always grows." The man, still standing, studied him. That gaze was analytical, assessing. "This is your dinner, and I can earn another one." Malik flagged Tasha. "Can we use the phone in back, see if Ray's towing is still out?" As Tasha hurried off, Malik turned back. "I'm Malik Carter." "Arthur," the man said, finally taking a seat, extending a hand. His grip was surprisingly strong. "This is my wife, Victoria. Our car. It just died on the interstate," Victoria said, her voice softening with confession. "We walked almost a mile in this." "Cars break down," Malik said simply. Arthur's grey eyes never left his face. "You work here, save for school. What will you study?" "Urban planning," Malik said, then shrugged, suddenly self-conscious. "Sounds like a fantasy, right?" "Not at all," Arthur said. "Tell me, what would you plan first, right here?" It was an odd question from a stranded stranger, but Malik found himself answering. The old factory down on 3rd, solid bones. Could be a tech hub, training center. Jefferson's library hasn't seen a new book in 5 years. And a clinic. Old folks like my grandma gotta take 2 buses just to get their blood checked. Arthur and Victoria exchanged a glance. A silent conversation passed between them. Victoria held her briefcase tighter. Tasha returned. Ray's on his way, 15 minutes. Thank you, Arthur said, then turned his full attention back to Malik. Your last name is Carter? Yes, sir. Arthur pulled a beautiful, aged leather card holder from his inside pocket, then paused. Instead of a card, he took a clean napkin and wrote carefully, Malik Carter. And your address? The question was too formal, too specific, but Malik gave it, 224 Sycamore Lane. Victoria whispered something urgent, gesturing to her case. Arthur nodded. Malik, Arthur began, his tone shifting into something profound, ceremonial. What you did tonight, surrendering your own meal to strangers, it is a declaration of character. It's just a burger, Malik protested. It is everything, Victoria interjected, her voice soft but fierce. She opened her briefcase a fraction. Inside, Malik saw the blueprints again, official seals, documents with that shimmering gold logo. We are not merely stranded, Malik. We are here on purpose, for a purpose. Before Malik could process this, headlights cut through the rain. Ray's tow truck. Arthur stood, and as he did, his posture transformed. The slight stoop of the weary traveler vanished. He stood with the authority of a general, surveying a field. Ray! Arthur called as the mechanic entered, dripping. The black Jaguar on the service road. How quickly? Ray wiped his face. Gotta diagnose it, sir. Could be an hour, could be tomorrow. Money is not a factor, Arthur stated, his voice crisp. Expedite it. Malik's mind stuttered. Minutes ago, this man was penniless. Now he spoke of money like it was air. As they prepared to leave, Arthur placed a hand on Malik's shoulder. The weight of it was deliberate. You've given us something tonight that cannot be purchased, Arthur said, his gray eyes holding Malik's. And we do not forget. He folded the napkin with Malik's information and placed it in his breast pocket like a sacred text. Victoria stepped close. This meant more than you know, more than you can currently imagine. It was just, Malik started. It was character, Arthur finished, the one currency that never devalues. They walked out into the abating rain. As Arthur opened the Jaguar's door for Victoria, the interior light illuminated his profile, and in that flash, Malik knew. He'd seen that face before, not in person. In a business section profile in the city newspaper, a photo next to an article about philanthropy. The Jaguar's engine purred to life instantly. As it disappeared, Malik stood in the diner's doorway, the cold air biting his skin. The universe had just whispered a secret to him, but he couldn't yet decipher the language. What he didn't know was that Arthur was already on his phone. First call, to an assistant. Cancel the board lunch. I need a full dossier on Malik Carter of 224 Sycamore Lane. School, work, community standing, everything. Second call, to a lawyer. Prepare the foundation documents. We have our candidate. The third call would come at 8:45 a.m., sharp to the principal of Jefferson High. But for now, Malik just felt the strange, quiet emptiness that follows a moment that has subtly changed the axis of your world. The diner felt hollow after they left. Tasha slid into Malik's booth. I've been serving tables since you were in diapers. Never seen a thing like that. You gave your only meal away. They needed it, Malik said, still staring out the window. That grandmother of yours raised you right. Tasha leaned in. But something was off, Malik. Ray said their car started right up. Just a loose battery cable, like someone pulled it on purpose. Malik frowned. What? And that man? He paid Ray in cash from a wallet thicker than my thumb. Funny how it got lost right when the coffee bill came. The walk home was a tunnel of thoughts. Past the nice houses, the struggling apartments, the spectral factory. At home, Miss Elaine was waiting, the blue light of the television playing over her face. You're late, child. Everything fine? He told her. The couple, the rain, the meal. He expected her warm pride. Instead, she grew still, her eyes sharp. Silver hair, gray eyes like a winter sky, car like a sleek black cat. Yeah, How'd you know? Ms. Elaine slowly turned up the TV volume. Sometimes, baby, blessings come dressed as storms. They weren't blessings, Grandma. They were just people. She hummed, patting his hand. You keep that heart. It's gonna carry you to places your feet can't yet walk. That night, in his narrow bed, Malik replayed the film strip. The calculated desperation, the briefcase of blueprints, the sudden transformation, the familiar face. His phone buzzed. Dion. Heard you bought dinner for some rich-looking old PPL at Benny's. Bro, you gonna die poor saving everybody. Malik smiled in the dark, maybe, but the look on Victoria's face when he set the plate down, that was a different kind of wealth. What Malik didn't know was that 3 miles away, in the penthouse suite of the Regency Hotel, Arthur and Victoria Thorne were reviewing a file, Malik's school transcripts, Benny's written evaluation. Most dependable kid I ever hired. Statements from teachers, neighbors, even the librarian who noted he tutored for free. Photographs of him helping Ms. Pearl with her groceries. Flawless, Victoria whispered, tracing a line on his grade report. Beyond flawless, Arthur corrected. He didn't perform, he revealed. The next morning, the questions began. At Benny's, Tasha was buzzing. Ray said there was another man there when he arrived, suit and tie, standing by a second car. Heard him talking about final phase and candidate verification. First period. Mr. Reynolds pulled Malik aside. Got a call this morning, very formal, asking not just about your grades but your integrity, who you are when no one's grading you. At lunch, Dion shoved his phone forward. Look, the article headline, Thorne Foundation Scouting for Heart of the Community Initiative. The foundation's value, 9 figures. And there, beside the article, was the logo. The same embossed gold emblem from Victoria's briefcase. Dion scrolled. Says the founders are super private, no pics. He looked up. Why? What's your face doing? Before Malik could answer, the intercom crackled to life. Malik Carter, please report to the principal's office. Immediately. The walk there was a silent parade of stairs. Through the principal's office window, he saw them, Arthur and Victoria Thorne, but transformed, impeccable, powerful. Documents with that gold logo were spread across the desk like a hand of winning cards. The air left the room when Malik entered. Arthur stood. Not the stranded man, but Arthur Thorne, whose name was on hospital wings and scholarship funds. Hello again, Malik. Malik's voice was gravel. You tested me. We observed, Arthur corrected, his gaze steady. We needed to see the core, stripped of context, stripped of potential reward, and you showed it to us. Principal Davis, a man usually full of easy confidence, seemed slightly awed. He slid a folder toward Malik. Malik Carter, comprehensive assessment. Inside, Malik saw his life dissected into neat reports. Academic excellence, employer testimony, neighbor interviews. He fixes my gate. He walks my dog when I'm sick. He always says thank you. For 6 months, Victoria began, her voice filling the quiet room. The Thorne Foundation has studied this district. We don't build where we're not invited, and we don't lead where we don't partner. We need a local cornerstone, someone with intellect, but more importantly, with uncompromised heart. What are you offering? Malik asked, the words feeling distant. Arthur opened the folder to a new section. A full-ride scholarship, any accredited university, major of your choice, tuition, housing, books, a living stipend. Victoria continued, summer internships at our flagship community centers in Baltimore, Houston, Detroit. You'll learn non-profit management from the ground up. And after graduation, Arthur said, his eyes locking with Malik's, you return here as deputy director of our new community revitalization project. 2-year mentorship then. Assuming fit, you become its director. Principal Davis finally spoke. Malik, this is unprecedented. Malik looked at the papers, his mind grappling with the scale of the deception. The car, the lost wallet, the rain, all of it was a scene. For me. The test was real, Arthur stated, his voice leaving no room for argument. Your choices were real. Your character was real. That is the only foundation we build upon. Victoria opened her briefcase fully now. Not just blueprints, but architectural renderings. A stunning modern complex of glass and brick, a health clinic, computer labs with rows of screens, vocational training workshops, a community atrium, and across the top of the rendering in clean, bold type, the Carter Center for Community Advancement. Malik's breath hitched. "You can't name it after me." "We can, and we will," Arthur said. "This represents a $30 million investment in these streets, but the building is just the shell. The soul has to come from within, from someone who loves this place not in spite of its scars, but because of them." The numbers were astronomical. A director's salary that could erase Ms. Elaine's medical debt in a year, an endowment to keep the lights on forever. "There is one condition," Victoria said, her tone shifting to one of grave seriousness. "This cannot be about ascent for you. It must be about elevation for them." She gestured out the window toward the schoolyard. "The moment this becomes a personal stepping stone, the integrity collapses. We will know, and the partnership will end." "How can you be sure of me?" Malik whispered. "Because last night," Arthur said, a faint, sure smile touching his lips, "you gave your only meal to what you believed were two helpless strangers. Not for credit, not for hope of return, because their need was greater. That calculus, that doesn't change with a title or a salary. It only deepens." Principal Davis pushed a thick contract forward. Malik saw the numbers, the salary, the benefits, the funding commitments. It was all real in stark black ink. "Take a week," Arthur said, standing. "Visit our other centers. Speak to the people we partner with, then decide. But know this, Malik, regardless of your decision about the center, your education is funded. What you did in that diner deserves that recognition at minimum." They left him then, with the principal and the world-altering documents. Malik stared at the blueprint of the Carter Center, proposed for the grounds of the derelict factory he'd pointed to. He thought of Ms. Elaine's weary smile, of Dion's cynical text, of the silent struggle of every person on his block. The weight of the offer was immense, but the weight of saying no, of leaving that potential on the table, felt like a betrayal of a different kind. If this heartfelt story moved you, then be sure to hit subscribe to the LostBlack channel. We bring you deep, emotional, and human stories just like this one. The next part of this story will be uploaded very soon. By hitting that subscribe button and turning on notifications, you won't miss a moment of what comes next.